Africa. The ground is cracked. The sky's about to explode. And predators that shape the evolution of an entire continent wait in the shadows with a patience no human has ever fully comprehended. The African savanna is not a stage set. It's a force field where every breathing creature is simultaneously hunting and being hunted. What you are about to see is unparalleled in any other ecosystem on Earth. And it begins now. The African savanna stretches across more than 13 million square kilometers, covering approximately 40% of the African continent in a continuous strip that begins in Senegal and Gambia in the far west, crosses Mali, Chad, and the Central African Republic, and opens up in all its magnitude in the territories of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique to the east and south. Two radically opposed climatic regimes govern this ecosystem with astronomical precision. During the dry season, which lasts between 4 and 8 months depending on latitude, the soil temperature reaches 70 degrees Celsius at midday, and the relative humidity drops to less than 12%, transforming grasslands into territories of cracked clay and red dust. During the rainy season, monsoon systems from the Indian Ocean dump between 800 and 1,800 millimeters of water in a few weeks, reviving an ecosystem that seemed to have reached its ultimate limit. From an economic standpoint, the savanna is the most powerful engine of African tourism. Kenya generates over $2.8 billion annually in tourism revenue. Tanzania surpasses $2 billion, and South Africa registers more than 1.5 million foreign visitors per year in its wildlife reserves alone. The integrated ecosystem of the Serengeti and Masai Mara, recognized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization as a World Heritage Site, directly sustains more than 1.2 million jobs in surrounding communities. A vibrant bioeconomy where preserved nature is worth, in concrete terms, infinitely more than destroyed nature. The savanna in the dry season is uninviting. It pronounces, "The sun rises at 5:40 with a violence that asks no permission." In less than 2 hours, the air temperature exceeds 42 degrees Celsius, and the red clay ground vibrates in waves of heat that dissolve any silhouette on the horizon as if reality were melting at the edges. The cracks in the soil deepen to 40 centimeters and widen to 8 centimeters, drawing a brutal geometric mosaic that covers entire plains with the texture of parched skin. The baobabs, Adansonia digitata, raise their swollen trunks, each holding up to 120,000 liters of water, becoming the last islands of moisture in a landscape that has forgotten the meaning of green. The giraffes walk with economical strides of 2 meters and 80 centimeters. Their 45-centimeter tongues contouring acacia thorns with millimeter precision to extract the last leaves that still carry some trace of nutrition. African buffalo gather in increasingly dense herds around the last remaining water sources, dipping their hooves into the mud that smells of sulfur and decay. Vultures watch in silent groups, reading the wind with nostrils that detect the gases of decomposition from 5 to 10 kilometers away. The drought doesn't eliminate life. It compresses it in a growing tension that accumulates energy for a single, inevitable moment of rupture. Before the first drop, the sky commits a premeditated crime. Cumulonimbus clouds appear on the western horizon, like black walls piling up in towers 16 to 18 kilometers high in less than 4 hours, carrying electric fields of 300,000 volts accumulated during weeks of extreme convection. The temperature drops 15 degrees Celsius in 20 minutes. The lions resting in the shade of the acacias raise their heads simultaneously, their nostrils dilated, reading a change that does not yet have a visible form, but which their bodies recognize with a certainty that precedes any thought. The first lightning bolt descends like a sentence, a channel of plasma at 30,000 degrees Celsius that touches the parched grasses and ignites them without hesitation. The fire advances at 65 kilometers per hour in a 4-meter-high wall over a carpet of grass with residual moisture of less than 8%, rewriting the landscape in orange and black with a speed that leaves no room for contemplation. Birds fly close to the edge of the fire, diving into the hot air currents to capture lizards and insects stunned by the smoke in a dance that only those who know fire from the inside can perform. Seeds of grasses like the Metatriandra, buried between 10 and 15 centimeters below the surface, survive the fire protected by carbonaceous husks and weight. Because they know, with the chemical wisdom of evolution, that what comes after the fire is more fertile than anything that came before. Something in the lions also waits, but for completely different reasons. The first drop doesn't fall, she declares. When the curtain of rain breaks the silence that followed the fire, it pours 50 millimeters per hour onto the still hot ground, generating a white mist that rises in spirals and covers the entire savanna with a veil that erases the horizon in minutes. The compacted clay rejects the first leaders with the hostility of someone who has forgotten what it is to receive. The water runs off in red sheets, carrying ashes and sediments towards the channels that begin to fill at a speed that does not allow for calm observation. In 36 hours, the soil absorbs, the roots respond. The dormant seeds trigger their germination processes activated by the precise combination of temperature, humidity, and chemical compounds released by the ashes. A molecular trigger tuned over hundreds of thousands of years of coevolution with fire. The Mara River, once a trail of damp sand with isolated puddles, swells 2.5 meters in 12 hours, its banks collapsing in landslides that release the deep scent of wet earth and exposed roots. A perfume that all the fauna recognizes as a sign that the world is changing state. Leopards, Panthera pardus, reposition themselves in the trees along the banks of the rising rivers, observing the current with amber eyes that register every detail without revealing any intention. And in the depths of this water that advances without asking permission, something ancient and utterly patient awaits the moment that the dry season made impossible. There is no more costly decision in nature than the one made on the banks of the Mara River. More than 1,300,000 wildebeest, conocetes, taurinus, and 350,000 zebras, equus quagga, reach the muddy banks after weeks of walking, driven by a neurological compulsion that has no name in any human language. An imperative that is neither fear nor hunger, but a convergence of all these states into a single irreversible command: to cross. The water is high, the current strong, and the Nile crocodiles, Crocodilus niloticus, are exactly where they have always been, distributed in strategic positions along the crossing stretch, motionless as submerged stones, with only their nostrils and eyes cutting through the muddy surface. These reptiles, with over 83 million years of evolutionary history, possess thermal receptors in their jaws that detect pressure variations equivalent to a drop of water falling 3 meters away. And they can hold their breath for more than an hour without any visible behavioral changes. An adult male Nile crocodile weighing 900 kilograms accelerates from 0 to 25 kilometers per hour in the first meter of an attack. With a bite force of 2,300 kilograms per square centimeter, the greatest ever recorded among all animals tested, up to 35 crocodiles hunt simultaneously in the same stretch of river during the peak of the crossing. On the banks, spotted hyenas await the animals that emerge exhausted on the other side, because the crossing does not end on the opposite bank. For decades, science classified it as an opportunistic scavenger, a follower of others' tracks, occupying the remains left behind by others. This narrative was wrong. Tracking surveys conducted in the Serengeti over more than 30 years have revealed that spotted hyenas are primary hunters in more than 95% of the territory studied, with an individual hunting success rate of 72%, higher than that of virtually any other large African carnivore. They live in matriarchal clans of up to 80 individuals, with a social hierarchy so complex that researchers took decades to map its nuances. Governed by females who are anatomically larger and physiologically more aggressive than the males. Its jaw generates a bite force of 5,100 newtons, capable of crushing a giraffe's femur in less than 4 minutes, processing bone and extracting marrow that no other terrestrial carnivore can access. The hyena's characteristic laugh is not an expression of joy. It is a signal of submission emitted mainly by young individuals in situations of social tension, encoded in a frequency that carries information about the identity, emotional state, and hierarchical position of the emitter. A language that researchers are still learning to decipher. And when night falls over the savanna, it is the hyenas, not the lions, that define where the silence begins. A male lion doesn't roar to intimidate, he roars to map. The roar of an adult lion, Panthera leo, travels up to 8 kilometers on a low humidity night, carrying information about the identity, size, and physical condition of the emitter that other lions decode with a precision that no human recognition system has yet replicated. A pride is a complex political structure governed by coalitions of related males and by females that constitute the permanent core of the group. Males enter, dominate, and are replaced. Females stay and build the collective memory of the pride over generations. Lionesses hunt in groups of up to 12 individuals using tactical coordination that involves positioning at calculated angles, communication through ear and tail micro-expressions almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, and a division of functions: those who surround, those who pursue, those who block, that dynamically reorganizes as the prey's behavior changes. The hunting success rate of a coordinated pride reaches 38%, a number that rises to 62% during moonless nights, when darkness eliminates the visual advantage of prey. An adult male lion consumes up to 40 kilograms of meat in a single meal and can spend the next 22 hours completely motionless, its metabolism processing the meal at a calculated slowness that conserves energy for the next effort. What lions lose in speed, the cheetah surpasses them by more than 50 kilometers per hour in a sprint. They gain in strategy, endurance, and social politics. But there is a hunter in the savanna who wins by completely different principles. and who rarely loses. Wild dogs, Lycaon pictus, are the most successful experiment in democracy that evolution has ever produced, and also the most successful hunters in Africa. With coats of unique spots like fingerprints that allow individual identification, these canids live in packs of 6 to 25 individuals, organized by a surprisingly horizontal hierarchy, where collective decisions are made by a behavioral voting mechanism. Before each hunt, the group members sneeze in a ritualized way, and the hunt only proceeds if a sufficient number of individuals participate in the ritual. A democratic quorum system that ensures consensus before collective commitment. Their hunting success rate reaches 78% in open terrain, compared to 38% for lions and 18% for cheetahs, thanks to a strategy that does not depend on peak speed, but on sustained aerobic endurance. They pursue prey at 48 kilometers per hour for distances of up to 6 kilometers, exhausting the thermal and muscular capacity of the pursued animal before any decisive physical contact. Wild dogs regurgitate food for sick, elderly members and those guarding the pups in the den, an altruistic sharing behavior unparalleled in complexity among other large African carnivores. Despite all this, they are the most endangered large African carnivore. Only 6,600 individuals remain in the wild, scattered in habitat fragments separated by roads, farms, and fences that interrupt the movements of an animal that needs territories of up to 2,500 square kilometers for a single group to survive. They haven't lost to predators, they've lost to landscapes. The leopard, Panthera pardus, is the ultimate proof that ultimate power needs no witnesses. Solitary by nature and by strategy, the leopard simultaneously inhabits open plains, riparian forests, rocky outcrops, and desert edges, the widest habitat range of any big cat on the planet, an ecological flexibility that has allowed it to survive in regions where lions and cheetahs disappeared decades ago. Its strength is disproportionate to its size. An 80-kilogram male drags prey, weighing up to 90 kilograms vertically up acacia trunks, using only its jaws and neck muscles. A feat equivalent to an 80-kilogram human carrying another adult by the mouth up a steep ladder without using their hands. It deposits the carcasses on branches up to 6 meters high to protect them from hyenas and lions that would be able to steal them on the ground. An elegant logistical solution to a competitive problem that it solves without direct confrontation, simply by changing the scale of the problem. Its rosette-patterned coat functions as a dynamic camouflage system. In the shadows filtered by acacia leaves at dusk, a leopard 10 meters away can be completely invisible to the untrained eye. Satellite collar tracking research has revealed that leopards in high-density predator areas move predominantly between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., avoiding any temporal overlap with lions and hyenas through a social chronobiology finely tuned with a precision that researchers have only been able to map with high-frequency tracking technology. The leopard doesn't avoid conflict out of fear. It avoids it because invisibility is, in itself, the most sophisticated form of power known to the Savanna. If this documentary is revealing a side of nature to you that you never imagined, sign up, activate the notification bell so you don't miss any episodes, and share this video with someone who needs to see the world with different eyes. Each entry is a vote for the continuation of this story.